everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. My name's Melva Peters and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada. And you can find me online at stampingwithmelva.com. And today I thought I would jump on and show you how I made the card. I'm going to call it a peekaboo card. I often don't know the names of some of these folds and techniques I tend to know, but folds. So I'm calling it a peekaboo card because this has got kind of a hole in the front that you can then see some images that are on the inside of the card, hence the peekaboo. I have used the Tea Boutique suite for this card. It's just so pretty. I actually created the card originally as part of a challenge in a training group that I was in, and it works perfectly. It is part of the Festive Friday challenge, which the festivity that we're kind of celebrating is Alice in Wonderland. I think that was what it was. And so there were a number of things. I can't even remember what I chose for this, but hole was one of them, and hence the peekaboo and the hole onto the inside of the card. All right, let me switch over and we will make this card together. All right, so I'm using the Tea Boutique or the Cup of Tea bundle for my card. First of all, actually, let me show you the card. So this is the card that I made. Isn't this pretty paper? This Tea Boutique Designer Series paper is just so pretty. And this is why it's called the peekaboo, because there's a hole in the middle and I've got some stamped and cut out images on the inside of the card. The colors are just so stunning in this paper. So I have used a Sweet Sorbet and then coordinating it with Starry Sky and green, Garden Green for my card. Okay, so let's bring it. So this is the Cup of Tea bundle, the stamp set, which you've got great stamps to stamp out these cups, some tags, then the leaves. I love this lemon. If you saw a post that I did last week, I believe, my thank you card for the month of June for anybody who places an order has this cup as well as a lemon on it. And then of course the dies are amazing. So you can cut out these cups as well as this really detailed one that you can adhere on. So that's what we're going to use. By the way, okay, let's put that there. So now let's bring in the supplies. Gone ahead and cut some of them out already. So I'm using thick basic white cardstock. Now this will make it a little harder to cut that hole in the front of your card. So this piece is 5.5 by 8.5, and I'm scoring it in the middle at 4.25. And as always, use your bone folder, fold into the mountain or the raised line to get a good fold. And always use your bone folder to get a really nice crease. Make sure card just stay together or fold nicely, not pop open. All right, so I have got 3 pieces of Designer Series paper that I've cut out, too wide. So I'm going to have to trim them. I thought I'd measured them, but clearly I measured wrong. So they should be 1.5 inches. So we're just going to take and trim these. These are 4.25 by, they should be 1.5 inches. So let's see, I want to trim it off the top. I'm just going to trim it off the bottom. That's 2 inches. I want to take 1/2 inch off. There we go. Trying to keep the pattern consistent, but I probably am not. Oh yeah, okay, so if I take that one, it's not going to work anyway. Okay, well, I'm just going to take 1/2 inch off the bottom. So these pieces should be 1.5 by 4.25. There we go. I'll use those other pieces maybe on the inside of my card. We'll keep those. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to adhere these pieces to the front of the card so that you have maybe 1/4 inch. What I find is easiest is to kind of start top and bottom and get the distance at the top and the bottom correct. And then you can kind of adjust the the middle one as you go. So these colors in this paper are just so pretty. Oh, and I think I said that in my last video. I've got to unclog, so let's use Stampin' Seal. I left the cap off of my multi-purpose liquid glue a little bit too long, so I just need to take a pin or something. You don't want to go in there with your paper snips, or so just take the pin or the end of a paper clip works well. And just if you ever have to kind of clear out a clog in your liquid glue, that's the best way. All right, so there's my designer series paper. Now, if it sticks out over the edge, which mine does a little bit, just take your paper snips and you can just trim off that excess like that. Okay. All right, so now I've got this. Now I have gone ahead and cut out a circle. This is from the Stylish Shapes dies. So these are all dies, circles, squares, and then these banners that are double stitched. So I've cut this one out of the largest, and now I'm going to cut the middle out. So I'm going to adhere this down, and then I'm going to cut the middle out of it using the second largest. So again, some Stampin' Seal. And we're going to put this here in the middle of the card. I'm just kind of eyeballing a little closer to, actually, no, let's put a little closer to the middle. So we'll align it with these top two strips of designer series paper. Just trying to get it roughly. There we go. Now take this piece. This is the second largest die. Open up your card base, and I'm just going to use a little piece of Post-it note tape to hold this in place while I'm going to grab my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Bring it in. There we go. I need the large, my big machine here. I can't use the mini. Oops, let's get my plates on the right way. So you need 1, 2, and then a 3. I really need to replace these plates because this is definitely warped. Okay, so this is going to be quite thick. So make sure you're going to have to run this through a couple of times, maybe even more, to make sure it cuts through. If you want it to be a little easier to cut through, then don't use thick basic white cardstock. So I'm just running this back and forth. We'll try 4 times. May not need that. We'll test it now and see. Yeah, it's going to need a little bit more. So I'm going to take and put that way, and that way maybe I can actually see a little easier. So I'm just going to keep running this through until it cuts. Again, because it's going through 3 layers and one of them is thicker than the other, it does take a little bit of extra cutting. Let's try this. So, oh, there we go. It's starting to get there. Like I said, just keep running it through until it cuts. Having warped plates probably isn't helping because it's not right down. So I'm trying to just kind of hold it in place. Let's see. 2 more. Oh, loud. Okay, that's looking like it may be cut. There we go. So I'm just taking my nail and just running it. And if you've got a little tiny piece that just is not behaving it, so you can take your pick tool and kind of just use it as a kind of score that. Like I said, I probably should not have used, and if you do this from the back, you actually won't see this if you get a bit of a rough edge. I think using just regular basic white cardstock rather than the thick probably would work much better. So I've got that piece cut out. You can save that for another time. Take that piece of Post-it note tape off. And that piece, oops, there we go. All right, now I noticed as I did this, one of the things about using Stampin' Seal is that sometimes you don't get it, the whole thing adhered down. Trying to get this piece of Post-it note tape off. Because I ran it through so many times, the Post-it note tape really sticks. So just be gentle when you're pulling it off. There we go. And so I do, oh, you see it came off. So I'm going to grab my silicone mat here. Because I'm using Stampin' Seal, I'm just going to use my silicone mat so that I don't get Stampin' Seal all over my grid paper. So I'm just putting some Stampin' Seal around this edge. And then you can kind of take and just rub it. If you have Stampin' Seal that kind of is sticking out over the edge, just take your finger and rub that off. And now you can put this around. It's just giving a border around the hole that you created. So there, now I've got a hole. All right, and save this piece for another project. Okay, so I'm going to need my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine in a minute. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some stamping, and we're going to stamp the pieces for the inside of the card. So I am using Starry Sky. I've got a bunch of pieces here that I'm just kind of using. Okay, so I'm going to stamp this great teacup in Starry Sky, the striped teacup. You could use whichever one you like. And then I'm going to stamp, so put that lid back on before I get my fingers in it. I'm going to stamp 2 of these leaves. I love this, this leaf. 2 of these. See if I've got enough room on here. I don't know that I do. Maybe. Oh, I might be able to. There we go. I re-inked my garden green the other day, so it's nice and juicy. It was looking a little sad. I don't need these now. I thought I was going to. And then the other thing, I've already gone ahead. This is the large banner. I've already gone ahead and cut this out. And I'm going to stamp the sentiment that says, take care of yourself. And I'm stamping it in, this is tone on tone. So I've cut this out as Sweet Sorbet. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp this so that the sentiment is to the left edge. I'm going to trim this. So you can see that I've got my sentiment stamped tone on tone to the left, because I'm going to trim this off and not use the entire piece. So now let's bring back my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And we will cut these pieces out. So I need my teacup and, uh-oh, I just dropped the die. There it is. I am notorious for dropping dies, sometimes losing them. I'm still looking. Actually, I've lost one out of this one. I've lost the little tiny tag, or not the tiny, there's 2 sizes of tag dies in this die set, and I've lost the bigger of the 2. I know I'll find it. It'll be around somewhere, but for the moment it's missing. All right, so we're just going to cut these out. Again, I've just used a little bit of Post-it note tape. You can use Post-it notes, you can use washi tape. When you're trying to cut out a stamped image, I just find having something to hold it in place so your die doesn't shift as you're running it through just makes it way less frustrating. Okay, there we go. Cut the second leaf out. And then I think we are done all of our cutting for this card. Okay, so aren't these teacups so adorable? Oh my gosh, just so much fun. If you've got a tea lover in your family, even if you don't, this paper, it's just so much fun. Save my Post-it note tape. Okay, so now These are going to go on the inside of the card. And I really just want it to be, so if you can see what I did here, I just kind of put it on the inside of the card. And it's the whole teacup isn't going to show. And we're just going to kind of layer these underneath. Again, not the entire piece is going to show, but just enough to give it some interest. So I'm going to go ahead using Stampin' Seal, I guess, since I don't want to use dimensionals on this because I just don't want it to pop out. It's not fully in the opening, and so therefore I don't want it to keep the card base open. I'm just going to put this cup in there and kind of try to tuck these. I'm not going to seal, I'm not going to press them down very hard because I want to make sure that that is going to work. That's pretty good. Okay, and then we're going to put some Stampin' Seal on and just put that cup right there. There. So now you can see my cup through the opening. And the last thing I cut out is one of these adorable hearts. This I am going to pop up using a mini dimensional. If I can find my, there they are, mini dimensionals. Just, this one is completely in the opening and so won't kind of hold my card base open any more than I want it to be open. So we'll just pop that up with a dimensional on there. Now, the next thing, this sentiment is going to go right here. So I'm going to take, and now you don't want to put adhesive on this edge that's going to flip over. So really, I just want the adhesive kind of here. So I find it easier when I'm trying to be careful with where my adhesive goes is just to adhere on the card base rather than on the label. Sometimes if I adhere it on the label, and I'm just going to adhere this, and then I can take my paper snips and cut off this excess. So this is even with the edge of the card. So there, I've got that. Now the last thing I didn't use any embellishments on this card because it's just, the designer series paper is so busy, but I did take and just tie a really small, hopefully smallish bow. Kind of has long tails, but the bow itself I want to be fairly small. You can fuss with that. There we go. And I'm going to use a glue dot just to adhere this to the card base. So I like to use my take your pick tool to get the glue dot just works better for me. And I'm just going to put that kind of on that corner and then leave those fairly long tails. Oops, everything's falling out for that. So there you go. That's my peekaboo card. I'm just going to take my bone folder and just give this a good burnish again. There we go, to make sure it closes. So there's the card. Again, peekaboo. I don't have a sentiment inside. You could actually put a sentiment if you want down here, but I'm going to just write a note when I give this card away. So there's a couple of tips and tricks on creating these peekaboo cards. I hope you enjoy that. If you do have any questions as you're watching this video, just leave a comment. I'm happy to answer them. You will find all of the written instructions and measurements on my blog, and the link to my blog will be underneath this video when it goes live. So you'll be able to jump over there, get the written instructions, the measurements, and the supply list for everything that I've used on this card. Also, while you're here, if you haven't already, take the time to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you'll be notified when I post upcoming videos or when I go live. I absolutely appreciate everybody's support. And if you happen to head over to my blog, don't forget to follow me so that you'll be notified when my blog posts go live. All right, everybody, thanks so much for joining me. Hope you have a great day. Happy stamping.